This is Christian Book Blurb, brought to you by author and songwriter Matt McChlery. Get a behind-the-scenes glimpse into the lives of some of your favourite Christian authors, hear about their books and faith. Also, why not check out my website, mattmcclery.com. Well, hello and welcome to this episode of the Christian Book Blurb podcast. I'm your host, Matt McChlery. Thank you for joining me today. Now, on today's show, if you are a creative person, in whatever form that may take, this particular episode is especially for you. And if you're not a creative person, well, I'm sure you know somebody who is. So it's equally as well giving it a good listen. Now, on today's show, I am speaking to the author Jane Walters all about her new book called Bless the Work of Our Hands. So let's welcome Jane to the show. Hi, Jane.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's great to have you with us. Now, your book, Bless the Work of Our Hands, is specifically written as a devotional for Christian creatives. What inspired you to write it, to bridge the gap between faith and the creative process in the way that you have?
So the thing that strikes me in life is how we tend to put things into compartments and to keep them at arm's length from each other. So we might have our work stuff, our home stuff, our church stuff, even our God stuff. And if we're not careful, we end up kind of living in these little zones of our life. And so when it came to thinking about how we conduct ourselves as Christians and Christian creatives, it was a really interesting thing to link it up and to consider a little bit more broadly that God is actually interested in every area of our life. So, like, why wouldn't he be interested in when we're getting on with something creative? Why would we think that he's only interested in us when we're sitting in church, for example? So for me, it kind of became this bigger thing, which of course I then explored in writing the book. But the more I thought about it, the more it makes sense that actually God loves us completely. He created us as we are. So, like, why wouldn't he be interested in this side of us as well?
That's really good. And you, of course, wear many different creative hats. You're a musician. I'm looking at you now as I'm chatting with you. There's a piano in the background, and I know you do wind instruments and things as well. And you do interior design and textile and craft work, and you also chair the Association of Christian Writers. How did your own personal experiences in these different mediums shape the reflections in the book?
Well, again, I think it's part of that same narrative of joining some things up, really. And I have to say that I couldn't have written this book when I was much younger, because I would have been in the thick of a work life, a career, bringing up the children. I think the pressures on creatives when you've got to fit it in amongst other things are very different from the space that I'm inhabiting in life at the moment. So I would say that I've got the freedom to be more intentionally creative. And as so often happens in life, you find yourself reaching a point where the different strands in life seem to have come together and it all kind of makes sense. I found that when I first started writing. But because I've always loved reading and studying God's word, and I've always enjoyed praying in a group setting with other people, it just felt increasingly relevant that I tie all of those things together, really. So, I do consider myself a Christian creative. It sounds a little bit of a lovey title, but I believe that God created us in his image and he is our creator God. So when you said at the beginning, I'm not going to challenge you on it because it's what many people think. I've heard people say, oh, I haven't got a creative bone in my body. But I would have to counter that with, well, we're made in the image of God and he is a creator. So wouldn't he have inbuilt that creativity within us? And maybe one of the things that holds us back is just that we don't think we're creative in a classic, obvious way. Somebody's not an artist or a sculptor or something that's automatically artistic. But I think we bring something of that vibrancy of God into everything we do. So when I call myself a creative, it's kind of with a bit of a cringe, but at the same time, it does express who I am. But like I say, because I'm used to writing about faith issues and exploring the Bible, it was a wonderful project actually to tie in all of those aspects of my life. It was a real joy project to write this book.
Mm. You mentioned just now that you're at the stage in life where you're able to take your time and write something like this. What about those people who are not, who are in the thick of things, who, you know, who do have to juggle family life and squeezing in a bit of creative expression here and there? Does your book speak to those people as well?
Yeah, it absolutely does. I mean, my intention in writing the book was that it kind of covered all the bases in terms of the different creative pursuits that people are involved in. So the back section of the book is all about prayers and thoughts about specific crafts. You know, I tried to think of as many as I could imagine, actually. It took a fair bit of Googling to do that section. But the thing about creativity is that it kind of, I don't know whether I'll be able to put this well, but we get so focused on productivity in life. You know, our
Mm.
culture is all about results. So the education system is not about creating well-rounded individuals that will go on to have a healthy adult life, but it's all about ticking the boxes, getting those exam results in, the league tables and all of that. And if we're not careful, we kind of get out of balance in life. And one of the things that creativity has always done for me, and it probably took a number of years before I could name it as such, but I was experiencing it, was to get that balance, that kind of downtime. So people talk a little bit glibly, I think it's been debunked slightly, that there are two halves of the human brain. You've got the logic side and the more creative, artistic side. And I think it's fair to say that some people operate very much out of one rather than the other. But the fact that scientists understand that we've got those sides to our character and personality and our entire makeup implies that we should be doing more with our life than just pushing on and being creative. So, you know, as a child, I played the piano a lot, and I read a lot, and they were the kind of things that got me through. And yes, I messed around with more creative, tactile crafts as well. But, you know, when we're in the thick of things, you know, I think back to, say, 25 years ago when I still had the kids at home, trying to hold down a full-time job, involved in church leadership and all of that, which many people can relate to. It's the hobbies, it's the downside, it's the playtime that always gets pushed out. But actually, my contention would be that when we ring fence some time for those things, it actually helps us to do the other stuff much better. You know, I think
Mm.
we were designed, it's not just the whole Sabbath rest thing, which is a tangent we could easily go down. You know, the fact that we're not machines, we're not supposed to drive ourselves hard all the time, but that is what society and culture tends to push us into. So for me, like, being creative is a bit of a pushback, actually. You know, like, yes, I see all the pressure. I see my growing to-do list and not much ticked off, but nevertheless, I'm going to make
Mm.
space to play. I mean, you
Mm.
think of children, they do their learning through play. They don't have a distinction between I'm going to play now and learn then. They're doing it all in one. And I think as adults, we lose some of that. I want to sort of make a claim for getting it back.
Mm. Well done, Jane. You do that. No, that's
I'm
so
sure
good.
I'm not
That's great.
alone. It's not a one-man campaign.
No, that's brilliant. I love that. So, bless the work of our hands. Your book, you structure some of the structure because you talked about at the end that there's like a whole long list of different creative pursuits, but in some of it, you structure your book to address various stages of a project, including what you call the messy middle, which I love. I love that expression, messy middle. Why do you think creatives get so stuck in the middle of their work, and how can prayer help? to push through?
Well, I think there's all sorts of reasons why. I think starting something new is always the easy bit. I mean, committing to starting is a whole other thing. But if you
Yeah.
think of, those moments where you think, oh, I know what I can do next, whatever it is, making a mud pie, making a book, making whatever. But that anticipation, that excitement is what fires us up and gets us excited. And I love that. I'm always thinking of what I can do next. I mean, with my writer's hat on, I've got a little notebook where I write down potential titles for books. And I can tell you now, I'm going to run out of lifespan before I've completed the list. But I'm always thinking, what can I do next? And like, oh, that would be a great idea. And I think a lot of us go into it like that. I mean, even the more pragmatic that are thinking about the practicalities, we still go in with a bit of a sense of excitement. And that's what gets us over the starting point.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
I don't know whether it's that our expectations are a bit off. I know mine are. Things always take way longer than I think they're going to. That's a key point, especially if, as I've just said, you're squeezing it in like, oh, I've got a delicious free half an hour. I know what I'll do. And of course, you don't get very much of it. But the point about that is that we quickly discouraged, whether it is that our expectations are a bit off, whether it's because we haven't got enough time, or, as can happen in the creative pursuits, something goes wrong. And it inevitably does. The most skilled among us, we still have curveballs thrown in, and something happens. I mean, I think when I started doing pottery back in high school, and you've got that lump of clay on this spinning wheel, and one moment you're thinking, I've got this, and then all of a sudden I haven't got it, and because it's so slippery in your hands, quite literally it's just kind of going here, there and everywhere, and it really is a mess. So whatever the project is, there is always a point where, so either something kicks in, like we start getting a bit tired, we lose our focus, or whatever. I don't want to fill in the gaps because I'm sure the listeners are thinking, oh, yes, I know what that feels like. But loads of other things crowd in at that moment, and that compounds the messiness. And those of us that are perfectionists, and I suffer from that affliction myself, it's really hard to cope with the thing that's gone wrong, the mistake, the thing that you didn't anticipate that has just distracted you. And so we're in this messy middle, and as if the mess itself, and sometimes it is physical, as if that wasn't enough, the things that crowd in at that point really become difficult. So the self-doubt, the why did I even start this? Why did I think I was capable? What on earth am I even doing? Oh, other people can do this stuff. I can't. I'm rubbish. And it's that downward spiral. And that is the situation that I had in mind when I wrote that section.
So good.
And the prayers in that section are all of the prayers are heartfelt. And if anybody's thinking, well, what do you need a book of formal prayers for? And I might have been one that said that some years ago, thinking of maybe Anglican liturgy. And I was brought up Anglican, so I'm not being disparaging there. But the thing about the prayers in this book is that they are heartfelt. It's those moments where you go, oh God, what's happening? Oh no. And that honesty before God is something that I really wanted to encourage. So the messy middle isn't the place where before God you try and put the brave face on it. I mean, often we can't even pretend, but it isn't where, if we met somebody in the street and they said, oh, how's that thing going? You might go, oh, not too bad. I mean, it's had its challenges and oh dear, but before God, you can go, God, what am I doing? I can't, I think this is ruined now. And it's that honesty. And I think that gives space for God to kind of go, I can come in here.
Yeah. And I guess it's also when you get stuck, when you get in that messy middle, sometimes you run out of words. Sometimes you don't know the words to say because it's just all in a mess. It's all tangled up all over the place. And actually having something like a book with a prayer or two written in it, you can turn to and go, aha, here's the thing. here's I can use this. And you also mentioned your pottery exploits there. Any chance of you appearing on the Great Pottery Throwdown anytime soon?
Do you know any of those shows? I couldn't do it with cameras on me and people scrutinizing everything. I don't know how they keep a clear head, never mind, not shaky hands. But I think those shows are great, actually. This is a whole aside, but we tend to think that people who are good at something are consistently good at it. We don't see the off days. I remember one of the famous photographers saying that if he got one good shot out of about 136, that seemed to be the figure in my mind that I remember, then he was pleased. And it's like, I think that when you see a good photo, that's that one shot. But of course,
Yeah.
it wasn't. It was multiple of not quite right. And again, that's another area where we're not realistic, is it? Like, who are we comparing to? Because again, one of the messes is, well, I just don't compare to other people. That the stuff I produce isn't anything like what they can produce. But again, we're focusing on the product and the end result rather than the joy of just doing. So if I could do the throwdown and it wouldn't matter and I wasn't sent home, then yeah, I'd be up for it.
Speaking of the joy of just doing, your book is kind of aimed at hobbyists and also paid professionals. Now, do you think there's a difference between someone who's a hobbyist or a paid professional when it comes to approaching creativity or being creative? Because I guess if you're a paid professional, you might feel a bit more under pressure. You have to produce something because this is going to pay the bills, or I've got a deadline to meet and I have to do this creative thing. Whereas if it's a hobby, you can just blow with the breeze and it doesn't really matter. So do you think that there's differences in that sort of kind of creative expression?
Yeah, I do. And how you've described it is exactly it, because it is that sense of pressure. I think, the ideal would be that you could just cheerfully do whatever you love doing, and it's all sort of soothing your heart and keeping your hands active. And the
Skip
reality
through the
is,
hills like the sound of music. Yeah.
the reality is really different when you're having to do it for somebody. I mean, for example, when I became an interior designer, I did the work myself. So I would come up with the design and then I would do it. Now I know that most interior designers have a team of people that can do it, but there was me tiling and plastering and wallpapering and whatever.
There's another show you can be on.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, but there is a big difference between, say, for example, decorating your own room and doing it for somebody else. And this is one of the key ways. I think as soon as you have, like you say, the pressure on paying the bills, like this has got to work. Like if you're in the middle of something going wrong, but it's a paid commission, well, frankly, you've got to get through that messy middle. I mean, even if it means starting again, and sometimes it does, but you have to get through it. And obviously, if it didn't have that pressure of the product, then you could just walk away. I mean, my best way of working creatively is to take frequent breaks. I mean, to other people looking on, it might look like procrastination, it might look like lack of focus, but actually for me, the moment something starts going wrong, I think, right, okay, take a break, take a step back. But actually, sometimes when you're doing that as a commission, you haven't got the time, you haven't got the luxury. So that's a real, it's not an imagined thing, it's a real issue. And the other thing is that you're doing it with a slightly different eye, in as much as it's not just you. I mean, I can produce something that wouldn't pass muster, like Harrods wouldn't take it to put on their shelf, but I could be really pleased with it. But when you're doing it as a paid professional, somebody else has got to be pleased with it. And, when I've had to do that in the past, it raises your standard. It's quite good in that way. It sharpens you, but at the same time, it is another pressure. I prefer working without pressure, But our dear paid professional colleagues don't have that luxury, I'm afraid.
Thank you. Creative work can often be very isolating sometimes. And as you mentioned as well, you can also be plagued by doubt and worries and that kind of thing. What comfort or guidance does your book offer to someone who might be listening to this, who is currently struggling with a creative project that might be feeling like a failure?
Well, yeah, I mean, I understand the feeling all too well, especially being a perfectionist, because it doesn't take too much to think you are a failure. And I think the fact that the book addresses it is hopefully a salve in itself, because you mentioned isolation. One of the things with isolation is that you think you're the only one who's having that particular thought. And the fact that, you've got my own prayers expressing it on behalf of others implies that there are many others going through that. But I think one of the things that is helpful to do is to kind of rephrase it, really. Like, what do we mean by failure? Particularly in the creative arts. I mean, if I'm not very good at maths, so I can use this example, but with maths, it tends to be a right or wrong answer. I mean, if it's 2 plus 2 and you put 5, it is clearly wrong. The thing with creativity is that you could argue that your answer of 5, for example, is just my creative interpretation. And what somebody might see as a mistake or a flaw could be seen actually as just a mark of individuality. And maybe because, we're sensitive souls, us creatives, maybe because we're so quick to think that we've gone wrong, or that it doesn't compare, or some other negative connotation, that we're quick to think of something as being a failure. I mean, the key example for me at the moment is because I'm learning how to watercolor. Stupidly, I've wanted to paint all my life, and only in the last couple of years realized that actually, if I had a go, I might actually be able to do it. And I'm at the stage, very happily, where I'm not terrible, but I'm still very much a beginner. And it's really difficult, particularly as a perfectionist, because if I'm honest, I only want to start doing something if I can be sure I'm going to be able to do it, which is the wrong approach. If anybody else is feeling like that, it is the wrong approach. That the joy is in the doing. And one of the things that I'm learning to do with watercolor is to get it wrong. And I do that whether I'm trying to or not. But to not see as, oh no, that's another painting that's a load of rubbish. But to just see it as like another marker point along the way. Like if I really want to get to a stage where I've got my own artwork on my walls, which is the aim. What I'd really love to do is to take a beautiful photo of somewhere where I've been on holiday, and then when I get home, I paint it, and that painting goes on the wall. So that's what I'm aiming to do. And some of the paintings I'm producing they are rubbish. I mean, they clearly are, but I'm not feeling a failure because it's all part of the learning process. And with creativity, it really is a lifelong learning process. There are some hobbies I've been doing for as long as I can remember. I'm still learning. So maybe the biggest thing we can do, apart from being honest about how we feel and turning it over to God and reading the lovely prayers in the book, but is to just say, what do I really mean by failure? And is it? And in any case, is failure the absolute worst? Because I don't think it is really. I think just a bit of reframing our thinking is probably really helpful.
Reframing, I like that. Just before we head for a short break, if someone in our audience feels like their creative spark has gone completely cold, what is one short prayer or reflection from your book? Yep, we got to get a reading here, guys. If you're listening to this, we got to get an exclusive. Jane is going to read from her book for us. Can you read us a short prayer or reflection from your book, Bless the Work of Our Hands, that they can carry into their studio or their workspace or wherever they express their creativity, that they can carry with them?
Yeah, I'd love to. And this is page 81, if you're interested. And it's in the messy middle section, but it's specifically on a little segment called Creative Blocking. God, into my head, my full of anxiety, devoid of ideas head, comes a promise that if I seek you, no, more than that, if I knock, pounding the doors of heaven, you will answer. And when you do, I will ask, and you will listen and care and act like it matters to you too. Then you will bend down, look me in the eye. I feel better even thinking about it, and give me what I'm asking for, because you are a good God. Oh Lord, thank you. Thank you for hope rising, for peace descending, and please, please, for ideas coming. Amen.
Thank you, Jane. That was lovely. Stay tuned. We'll be back really soon, right after these. If you enjoy listening to this podcast, you can help keep it on the web. All you've got to do is buy me a coffee. Head over to buymeacoffee.com/Matt McChlery to make a donation. There is a link in this episode's show notes. So go on, buy me a coffee today and help this podcast to keep supporting Christian books and authors. Hello, welcome back to the Christian Book Blurb Show. We have been chatting with the author Jane Walters just before the break, all about her new book, Bless the Work of Our Hands. It's a collection of prayers and reflections for creatives. And as Jane was saying earlier, if you managed to catch it, we're all creatives. So they're actually prayers for all of us. But there you go. So this side of the break, Jane, we like to get to know the author a little bit better. So who are you? Who is Jane Walters? Let's start off. What do you do for fun?
Well, I have a lot of fun, actually. I like to find the joy in life because we're here for such a short time. And, you know, I've worked so hard all my life that I'm trying to ease up a little bit and try and see the joy side and the fun side in most things. I've got a terrible habit of turning all of my hobbies into monetized projects.
Aha.
And that has really held me back. So like if I dressmake, I love to dressmake, you know, before I know it, I'm sewing somebody's wedding dress or ball gown. And, you know, so I'm determined with the painting that I mentioned just now that I'm not going to take on any painting commissions because then that will stop it being a hobby. So for fun, I love playing the piano. That has always been my happy place. I think of it as my escape tunnel, where I can just kind of slide off into another realm. It lets my mind wander as my fingers go over the keys. I love painting. I love the outdoors. I love reading. I don't read outdoors. I do sometimes, actually, in the garden. But I love walking, and particularly hill walking, which, you know, I live in Norfolk, Matt. So hill walking is a bit of a challenge. So
travel somewhat.
We do have to travel elsewhere and do some walking. But anything where you can just kind of experience a bit of creation. I mean, that's funny, isn't it? I hadn't thought of that here's the twin sides of me. I love creation and being out in nature, and I love creativity. So it's all about God being creative for me.
That's lovely. What keeps you busy, dare I ask?
Everything keeps me busy. Yeah, but again, so there's a little phrase that if you do what you love, then you never have to do a day's work in your life. I kind of like that. And in the book, actually, I coin a phrase called work play, which is hyphenated work play, because we're kind of working and taking something serious, but at the same time we're playing. And I kind of like to do that. So I can't remember the question. What did you ask me, Matt?
What keeps you busy? What do you do for work?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So when I'm working, I try and keep back that sense of pressure and that I have to do it. And I have to remind myself that when I'm busy, I'm doing all of the things I love. So I'm chair of the Association of Christian Writers, which I really love, supporting emerging writers and the state of Christian writing in the UK. I absolutely love doing that. So I don't mind being busy with that. I don't mind being busy with writing deadlines because I love writing. I don't mind any of it really. So I've got all sorts of admin things that keep me busy. My to-do list is never finished. My writing to-do list at the moment has about 10 commissions on it, all of which have to be done in the next 2.5 weeks. So that's a bit of fun. But because I've got the balance with putting in some creativity, it doesn't feel a pressure.
That's good. I just want to go on a side tangent just briefly. You mentioned the Association of Christian Writers, or ACW, there. Tell our listeners, what is the Association of Christian Writers and how can they get involved if they are a writer, or, they don't even have to be an author, do they? Or do you?
No, and the thing I love about ACW, it's been going since 1971, so we're quite established now. We've got about 700 members. The thing about it I love is that it welcomes writers of all ages and stages working in any genre. Some writing associations can feel a bit exclusive, and I like to think that ACW is a really inclusive association. Anybody's welcome to come along, and we've got the people that are multi-published, they're prize-winning, they're big names in their genre, and equally we've got the people that have joined just because they fancy having a go, and there's a place and a welcome for everybody there. I mean, by all means, get in touch with me personally, but actually our website carries all the details that you need. So that's www.christianwriters.co.uk. So have a look. Our membership fee is very modest each year, but if you are writing as a Christian, and it doesn't matter whether you're writing as specifically Christian, the fact that you're a Christian writer is what qualifies you, then look into joining us, because we'd love to meet you, and the more the merrier.
That's great. I'm a member of ACW as well, for the listeners who may be wondering. So yeah, I'm very fond of it, and the relationships built there as well. So thank you for all you do there. Now back to you, Jane. Do you have any favorite things to eat? Is it a particular style of food, or is it just like chocolate, or?
Yeah, I eat chocolate every day. I absolutely love chocolate.
What kind of chocolate? Is it milk, or sort of 70% dark chocolate?
Yeah, the darker the better. The darker the better. I did get given 100% chocolate.
Ooh.
Which is, it can give you a bit of a headache, to be honest. But I used to shave little bits off. It came in a sort of solid cylinder, and I shaved little bits off. And the lovely thing about that is that you get that intense chocolatiness, but with hardly any, so that it lasts for months, and it doesn't put the weight on like the other stuff. But you tell yourself that it's not pheromones, it's something else that pheromones is smell, isn't it? It's not that, but there's something wonderful about chocolate. So I tell myself that it's a positive health food. The thing that I absolutely won't eat anymore, and that's shepherd's pie. I've eaten more shepherd's pie in my life than is reasonable, and I don't want to eat that anymore. So
you've lost your taste for shepherds over the year.
I have, yeah. I find them a bit stringy now. Yeah, I don't like stuff with gravy, like pie, vegetables, gravy. That's not me at all. I like things all chopped up, all done in one pan. So your kind of Asian stuff and your stir fries, and I like throwing yogurt into things randomly. I mean, not strawberry yogurt, but plain yogurt. And
Mediterranean then, yeah.
Well, yeah, a bit of Mediterranean, a bit not British, really. I think that's basically it. Not British. I mean, not even chocolate's British, you see. So I'm consistent.
And let's move on from food to holidays. Is that also not British and a bit Mediterranean, or what do you do for holidays?
Oh, well, you see, for years I didn't prioritise them because I was too busy. That was silly, wasn't it? So I used to go for short breaks, but not holidays. And now I'm in a new phase of life, and newly married as well. And that's the thing that's made the difference. So up until a couple of years ago, I'd only been out of the UK a handful of times, but I find myself leaving often now, which is rather nice. So yeah, I like a holiday where you can see a new thing. I do like the heat, so I'm not a cold holiday person. I did have a a brief dalliance with skiing in my teens, and we didn't get on. Let's put it that way. So I prefer somewhere warm, with something cold to drink in my hand, seeing new landscapes and so on. And I tell you what, that if you can't actually go away, watching a program like Race Across the World, I don't know whether
Oh, I
you watched
love
that.
that. Oh, it's so
The,
good.
the scenery is just
Hmm.
breathtaking, and I tell you, you don't have to leave your armchair to experience the amazing stuff going on in the world. So though those kind of programs, I know you didn't ask me about telly, but
No, it's great.
watching anything with a landscape or whatever,
The most recent episode of Race Across the World, um, I was just saying to my wife when it ended, I said, some of those countries they went to, I'm there. I'd jump on a plane tomorrow. Greece, particularly, was stunning, and I thought, wow, I've never been, and I would love to go one day. But then there were some other places which were very sort of arid, kind of very harsh landscapes, and I was like, no,
I
don't
couldn't.
fancy that.
No,
Don't fancy that.
I
And
will.
at least I know after watching, I'm not going to find myself there anytime soon.
Well, no, exactly. You can save your money.
Yeah, exactly. No, but it's great. And don't you love those shows where you see it's not a made up story. It's real people having real experiences with real relationships, and you see them sort of deal with some stuff in their lives, and you see the growth of them as a person, and I like shows like that as well. They're really good.
And I prefer them to dramas these days. I've always been a fan of the good saga on telly as well as in books. But actually, like you say, when you're seeing real people go through it, it actually impacts you more, because a book or a story, they're really valuable. I mean, as a writer, I would never knock a book or a story. But if you're not careful, you could go, oh, yeah, but it was just made up. But
Yeah.
when you see real people and overcoming things, particularly, they end up changing your own life,
Yeah, yeah.
don't they?
My wife and I have a little trick when we're watching sort of a written sort of TV thing, and we know it lasts an hour. If you think you know who's done it by sort of 15 minutes in, well, it can't be that person, because there's still another 45 minutes left to fill. So, you got to wait until at least 45, 50 minutes into the program, and now that's the person who's done the deed, because
Yeah.
you get to know the story arc quite well, don't you?
Yeah, and then you're thinking, why did they introduce that window cleaner in the first 10 minutes? It's because he was the perpetrator all along. Yeah, I know. I do
Exactly.
exactly the same.
Exactly. So what is the Holy Spirit doing in your life at the moment? Or has he put something in your heart that you want to share with our listeners today?
Wow, you see, that's interesting, isn't it? So there's two ways I'm being stirred, really. One is through, I write for BRF Ministries, who are the publishers of Bless the Work of Our Hands, but I write Bible notes for them. I know you do as well, Matt. And so I'm writing for New Daylight at the moment for 2027, all on Psalm 119. And I have to say that I'm finding myself stirred afresh. I mean, I love the Bible, but that psalm is full of like, I just love your word, God. I meditate on it day and night. So I find that very stirring, but equally just kind of closer to home, and I haven't even begun to process it yet. There's a dear lady in our church that can't come very often for health reasons, but she kind of fixed me with a look when I went into church on Sunday, and she said some words to me that I kind of went wide-eyed at and immediately wrote down. So I'm just thinking God is stirring something. And a friend just the other day sent me something. I think you need to listen to this podcast. It helped me when I was looking for a new job. And I'm thinking, oh, no, I don't need to take on anything else. So I've no idea what this podcast is going to be about. But I just have a sense that God is stirring something new, which is very exciting. And I have no idea what it is. So kind of watch this space.
Really good, really exciting. Where can people find you on social media or the internet? And more importantly, where can people buy your book, Bless the Work of Our Hands?
Oh, yes, great question. So, I'm on Facebook as Jane Walters, author and speaker. You'd be really welcome to find and follow me there. And I'm on Instagram as Ready Writers Retreats. And that's because I run a retreat program for Christian writers. I mean, you don't have to be a Christian to come on the retreats. In fact, many people who come aren't. But I do teach creative writing in a Christian context. So that's why I'm Ready Writers Retreats on Instagram, but I speak about my writing there as well. And if you want to get a hold of the book, by all means go to BRF Resources straight away, direct, or you can contact me for a signed copy. Otherwise, it's available in the usual online outlets. What I would just say is, isn't Amazon convenient? But, let's support the others like Eden and Hive, who do a great job. You'll get as great a service, and we don't need Jeff Bezos getting all our money, do we?
Thank you very much, Jane, for joining us here on the Christian Book Blurb. And it's been great chatting with you. And I look forward to using some of your prayers in my creative endeavors. So thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks, Matt. It's been fun.
And thank you as well for listening to this episode of the Christian Book Blurb podcast. I'll be back really soon chatting with another Christian author all about their books and their lives and their faith to help you grow in your discipleship one book at a time. This podcast lands on the 1st and the 15th of every month. So I'll see you again really soon. Thank you. Goodbye. Thanks for listening to Christian Book Blurb with your host, Matt McChlery. Do give it a like, give it a share, and let your friends know all about it. We do hope to see you again soon on another Christian Book Blurb.